Is there a magic strategy to getting a home seller? Well, there's actually several magic strategies. I'm Pete Mitchell. I am the founder of AI Lead Automation. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through what we call the I have a buyer letter. And I'm going to encourage you to use it a couple of different ways because it absolutely works. In fact, one of my clients up in Canada, she basically, they have a different mail system up there, of course. And what she does is she prints out this letter on a regular sheet of paper. I believe she staples it, and she has the post office take it to all of the homes in the neighborhood that she works, and she continually gets listings from it. So what does the letter say? What's so magical about it? Well, first of all, it's a letter that is coming from me, an agent, to you, an individual, and it's legitimate, meaning it doesn't look like it is being mass produced, even though it very well could be. It's a very sincere message, and it is a message that is going to solve a problem for you and the problem for me. So we put a headline on the letter. Now, why do we put a headline on the letter? The only way to get someone to read the first line of the letter is to make it interesting to them. So our headline on the letter says, would you be willing to sell your home if the money was right? And we have it worded specifically like that because there's a lot of people who, if you offered them enough money, they would actually sell their home. In fact, my parents just emailed me their neighbor's home. Their neighbor's home, they live in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's a 2,800 square foot home, right? So not huge, not small, but not huge either. I believe it's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. They listed it for $4 million because this is the San Francisco Bay Area. And it sold over asking for $4.1 million. They thought they'd overpriced it at $4. I'm thinking, hey, if someone were to go to my parents and say, hey, would you be willing to sell your home if the money was right? They might go, hey, 4.1 sounds about right to me. So that's one of the reasons why we use that term, if the money was right. Because a lot of people, if the money was right, they would sell their home. So we want them to go, yes. And that gets them to read the next line. So if we're sending this in a letter format and we know the person's name, we're going to say, dear so-and-so. If it's going to be generic, we might just put hello and an exclamation point. And then we go into our first line. I currently have a buyer I'm working with who only wants to live in your neighborhood. And I bold all that, I italicize that, and then who wants to live in your neighborhood. I even underline that part of the sentence. Because what we're underscoring here is you live in an area that's highly desirable, and I've got someone who really wants to live here. And then we go on to the next line. As you probably know, you live in a popular area and inventory is low. We've exhausted all available properties and can't find anything that is suitable. Would you still be open or interested in selling if the money was right? That's a very specifically constructed sentence. Would you still be open? We're implying that they are open because when they read the headline, we asked them, would you be willing to sell if the money was right? So we're implying you were open at the beginning of the letter. That's why I'm asking, would you still be open to or interested in selling if the money was right? So again, we're re-emphasizing, is the money right? If so, please give me a ring right away and we can chat to see if we can make a connection with my buyer. While my buyer needs to identify a property as soon as possible, they can be flexible on the move-in date. Now, why do we say that? Well, because a lot of people are thinking, well, you know what, I'd like to sell, but I need to wait until the summer, or I need to wait until the winter, or I need to wait until the spring, or I need to wait until the fall, or I need to wait until my daughter graduates, or my son joins the army, or whatever the excuse is that they have. Would your buyer be willing to wait? Well, if you got enough buyers, there's somebody who's going to be willing to wait. In fact, most of them in this market, they're willing to wait because they don't have an option. They have to wait. So we're just letting them know, hey, we're flexible on that. We're flexible on the move-in date. And then please call or text me at this phone number or email me at this email address and let me know. Thank you. Pete Mitchell. P.S. Please know that this is not an attempt to solicit a listing. This is a sincere effort to find a home for this very qualified buyer. Call me at this phone number if you are even remotely interested in selling. So why do we have that last part in there? Well, you might have to word it a little bit differently, but depending on your MLS rules and what your local board requires you to put. But sometimes we have to put stuff like that in the letter that basically says, hey, if your home's already listed, this is not an attempt to list your home or stuff like that. You do whatever you need to do to keep yourself compliant. But we're letting them know, look, we've got a buyer. I'll do another video on how do you get a buyer if you don't have one, but I'm not going to cover that in this video. And then we basically reemphasize, call me at this phone number if you're even remotely interested in selling. Because again, we're going to put it out there. If you're interested in selling, I've got a buyer for you. So that's the basic makeup of this letter. And now how do we use it? A couple of different ways you can use it. Like I mentioned, you can use it as a standalone letter, put it on your letterhead, things like that, send it out to an entire neighborhood. You can put it on a postcard and send it out to everyone in a neighborhood on the postcard. One of my favorite things to do is, I actually do this all the time in a lot of different industries, is I'll go to Vistaprint and I will have those little notebooks where it's got all your information on it. And we like to drop those off at all the homes. And, you know, the thinking is, hey, that family's going to have it on their desk or on their kitchen. And every time they're writing up what they need at the store, they put it on there, which, by the way, my family does all the time. So feel free to send those over to my house, because we actually do use those and we love those crazy things. But what I'll do at Vistaprint is, like, if you've got your normal one that you automatically have made for you, those scratch pads, there we go, that's the word I'm looking for, the scratch pad. It's probably got your name on it. It's probably got your license number on it. It's got all the things that you need to keep yourself compliant when you're advertising. And I love that. So it's already on there. I'm going to use the exact one that I normally use. But Vistaprint will also let me upload an image. So I handwrite this letter and I will upload it to Vistaprint as a handwritten letter, not as a typed letter. And I'll sometimes use blue ink or sometimes use black ink, and I'll have it in that color on the notepad. So why do I do this? Because it looks like I actually hand wrote that letter, and I have a whole notepad full of them, right? So if it's 50 sheets to a notepad, I got 50 of them right there. And if I go door knock a neighborhood and they're not home, I rip one of those suckers off, stick it in the door jamb, and you know what? People think, well, gosh, this agent actually stopped by my house. They must like my house. Their buyer must actually be interested in this house. And guess what? I bet you I've got a buyer who is going to be interested in that house. Again, we'll do a whole video on how do we find the buyer if you don't have one. That's not the point of this video. But do you understand the power of that? The reason why it works so well and why people will actually respond to it? Because of the psychology of the letter. If the money was right, are you still open or interested in selling? If the money was right. Like, we've got all the right things in this thing. And that's how we can get a listing. And of course, if we're bringing a buyer to the table, a lot of times we can double end that deal, that transaction. If you want to see what we do at AI Lead Automation, which, by the way, isn't this stuff. However, we do take your leads and we can funnel them into our system. We use AI to pre-qualify them, and we use AI to actually book the appointments with them. So all you're doing is talking to red hot pre-qualified prospects, which is every agent's dream scenario. Then head to agentfollowupai.com. Head on over there, check it out. I got a great little video. You're gonna get some great ideas from it. And I will see you on the next video. Take care.